I've always felt a deep connection to the rhythm of rural living. The ever-changing seasons, the earthy scent of freshly tilled soil, and the steady hum of the tractor were constants in my life. However, as I grew older, I started wondering about the world beyond our small farm. Tales of distant cities and exotic places sparked a yearning for something more than the simplicity our town offered. Life on the farm was straightforward, grounded in honest labor. While we weren't destitute, luxury was a concept that existed far beyond our reality. My parents found contentment in that life, but I longed for exploration and excitement. I realized early on that if I wanted something different, I'd have to take a leap of faith and make bold decisions. Growing up, I learned the value of hard work. By the time I was 7, I was already hauling and stacking bales of hay. After finishing high school, much to my parents' disappointment, my best friend Jake and I made the life-altering decision to enlist in the Marines. We were stationed in South Korea and Japan for 4 years, during which Jake and I ignored advice to stick to the familiar and ventured out to experience the world as much as possible. This was our one shot, and we weren't about to waste it. My earnings went toward indulging in those adventures, while the rest went back home to support my family. Our service wasn't particularly eventful, mainly consisting of sentry duty and the occasional mischief. By the time we were discharged, the nickname Army had firmly replaced my given name, Ryan Carter. It stuck, even though people back home misunderstood its origins. Returning to Belford was a reality check. Job opportunities were slim, with farming and construction being the only real options. I chose construction, working long hours but still finding the energy to hang out with friends. It was during one of those evenings at Higgins' restaurant that I met Emma. From the moment I saw her, I was smitten. After relentless efforts, she finally agreed to go out with me, and within 9 months, we were married. At 24, we were happy but practical, agreeing to save money before starting a family. My dad encouraged me to seek better opportunities, a suggestion that soon proved wise. Despite our efforts, we struggled to make ends meet and lived paycheck to paycheck. After 2 years of marriage, we had little saved, and the nearby cities of Somerville and Kensington seemed like potential lifelines for better-paying jobs. One afternoon, Emma came home brimming with excitement. A new gym in Kensington was hiring, and the pay was promising. She landed the job at Stokes Fitness Palace after a successful interview. At first, her work wardrobe was conservative, but over time, her outfits became more revealing, which made me uneasy. A visit to the gym showed that all her co-workers dressed similarly, easing my worries for the moment. Emma seemed energized by the job, and her newfound confidence brought a spark to our relationship, especially in the bedroom. She attributed the change to working out and living healthier, and I didn't complain about the positive effects on our marriage. One Friday, Emma mentioned she was up for a promotion and invited me to attend a special event for spouses at the gym. Although I was hesitant, I agreed. Feeling a sense of unease, I asked Jake to come along. He brought a spy pen capable of recording audio, just in case. When we arrived, Jake wasn't allowed in initially, but I insisted, and we both entered after handing over our phones. Inside, my heart sank. Emma looked nervous, standing next to her supervisor, Marcus Goliath Reid. She was dressed in a tiny bikini that left me shocked and furious. When I demanded to know what was happening, Goliath smugly explained his plan. An arm wrestling contest where the winner would not only get a cash prize, but also a night with Emma. Though she initially protested, the money tempted her, and she eventually agreed. Goliath revealed his sinister plan to drug me with ketamine after I lost, ensuring I wouldn't remember any of it. Emma would get the money, and we'd carry on as if nothing had happened. I realized Goliath had underestimated both my resolve and the loyalty of his crew. When one of his goons started discussing the dosage to knock me out, I decided enough was enough. "I'm done," I said coldly. "If Emma's even considering this, she's yours. Do whatever you want with her. I'm leaving." Goliath's smug expression didn't waver. "You can't leave, Army. A deal's a deal. Emma promised you'd compete and forget everything afterward." "I don't care anymore," I replied, my voice steady with resolve. "I just want a divorce." Emma broke down in tears, but I ignored her. "If you want me to compete, you'll have to kill me afterward," I added, my tone daring Goliath to follow through. He laughed dismissively and gestured for the contest to begin. As they ushered me into the gym, a crowd of men hooted and jeered at Emma, who was now practically naked. I scanned the room for Jake, but couldn't spot him. "Where's Jake?" I asked sharply. "He left," one of the men lied. I knew better. Jake wouldn't abandon me willingly. Wherever he was, I hoped he had a plan. Meanwhile, Goliath addressed the crowd, hyping them up for the main event. "All right, everyone. This is what you've been waiting for. 40 of us paid our entry fees and signed waivers. Stokes Fitness Palace takes no responsibility for injuries. This is a double elimination tournament. If you lose twice, you're out." The crowd roared with excitement. Emma chimed in, urging the crowd to cheer louder. "My husband, Army, will take on the top contender. If he loses, the winner gets everything." "Agreed?" The men cheered as Goliath added, "The winner gets $20,000, a trophy, and a night with Emma. You've all seen her video. Tonight, the winner's in for the night of his life." The room erupted in cheers as I sat silently, disgusted, watching my wife flirt shamelessly with the crowd. Rage churned inside me, but I kept my composure. After nearly 90 minutes, the competition whittled down to 10 finalists. One of Goliath's thugs sneered at me. "You just couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you? After this, I'll make sure you take a nasty fall, down the stairs or wherever I choose." His threat only fueled my determination. In the semifinals, Goliath dominated his opponent, setting the stage for a final showdown between him and me. He refused to take a break, clearly confident I wouldn't pose a challenge. As I approached the table, I untied my windbreaker and wrapped it around my waist. The room went silent. No one believed I had a chance. It was clear they'd already decided Emma would belong to Goliath. I broke the silence, asking, "Where's the $40,000 prize money? I want to see it." Goliath sneered. "Why does it matter? You're not going to win." "I still want to see it," I insisted. Reluctantly, his lackeys fetched a locked box, and the referees confirmed the money was inside. Turning to Ethan Brooks, one of the referees, I said, "I want you to hold onto that box and make sure I can leave here alive." Goliath's smirk widened. "Oh, you'll leave," he said, though his expression suggested otherwise. I had no doubt his thugs were already planning to ambush me outside. Satisfied for the moment, I added, "Let's get one thing straight. I'm only here for the money. Emma? I don't care about her anymore. In fact, I might just leave her here, whether I win or lose." Emma shot me a venomous glare. "Enough talk," Goliath snapped. "Let's finish this." Before I could respond, Emma walked over to Goliath and kissed him, her actions as brazen as they were disgusting. My blood boiled. When she turned to kiss me, I stopped her. "Don't touch me, Emma. You're nothing but a deceitful witch. If I could, I'd divorce you on the spot. Now get behind me. I can't stand to look at you." The crowd gasped as Emma began to sob. The referees shifted uneasily, and I hoped they recognized I wasn't here willingly. Goliath, basking in the crowd's adoration, slammed his elbow on the table. "Come on, Army. Let's see who the real man is." The room erupted into cheers for Goliath. Reluctantly, I placed my arm on the table, clasping his hand. Referee David Turner went over the rules, and the match began. I threw every ounce of strength into the first round, but our hands didn't budge. Goliath grinned and, with a slow, deliberate push, forced my hand down. The crowd roared in approval. I took a deep breath and reminded everyone, best 2 out of 3. Preparing for the next round, I focused on staying calm as Goliath laughed, oozing confidence. "You don't stand a chance," he sneered. The second round began, and I gave it everything I had. For the first 10 seconds, we were locked in a stalemate. Then, to everyone's surprise, Goliath's strength faltered. I pushed back with every bit of endurance I'd built over the years. Slowly but surely, I forced his hand down. The referee declared my victory, silencing the crowd. Goliath sprang to his feet and raged. "That was a fluke. I'm going to crush you now." He tore off his jacket and ripped his shirt, revealing his bulging muscles, then slammed his elbow on the table. Ignoring his theatrics, I steadied my breathing. David signaled the start of the final match. Goliath attacked with all his strength, nearly pinning me right away. My hand trembled under the pressure, but I held firm, waiting for him to tire. Then Emma's voice rang out, loud and clear. "Come on, Goliath. Finish him so I can have you." Her betrayal reignited my fury, giving me a surge of energy. With every ounce of strength I had left, I pushed back, turning the tide of the match. Finally, with one powerful move, I slammed Goliath's hand onto the padded mat. David declared me the winner. The room fell into stunned silence. "How the hell did you do that?" Goliath demanded, his voice full of disbelief. "I'll tell you," I replied, "but only if you meet two conditions. First, give me the $40,000. Second, let me leave here unharmed." Goliath, begrudgingly, agreed. Ethan handed me the money, which I tucked into my windbreaker. Addressing the crowd, I said, "I've won fair and square, whether you like it or not. No one is to lay a hand on me." Goliath confirmed this, though I could tell by his expression that his men were still planning something. I turned to the crowd. "I've spent my life working on farms and in construction, building real strength and endurance. In the Marines, I arm wrestled regularly and never lost. My muscles are built for endurance, not short bursts like his. That's how I won. Now, I'll take my leave." I retrieved my phone and started toward the exit, ignoring Emma's calls. "I'll wait outside," I told her. "Go put some clothes on." She saw it as a chance to talk. I saw it as a way to buy time to escape. As I reached the door, Jake's car came into view. He flashed his headlights, signaling he was ready. Suddenly, 3 of Goliath's thugs appeared from behind an SUV and charged at me. But Marines are trained to run, and I sprinted, diving into Jake's car just in time. Jake hit the gas, tires screeching as we sped away. "I didn't abandon you in there, Army," Jake assured me. "Some big guys forced me out and threw my phone on the ground. They said it was a closed event." I waited nearby and was about to call the cops, but when no one else came out, I figured you were handling it. When I saw those guys chasing you, I knew something was wrong. What the hell happened? "Take me home," I said. On the drive, I recounted everything. Jake listened in shock, struggling to process Emma's betrayal and Goliath's plan to drug me. When we arrived, Jake asked, "What's the plan?" "Park out back," I replied. "Emma will probably show up soon. If she's alone, I'll talk to her while I pack. Can I crash at your place for a few days?" "Of course," Jake said. "I only have a couch, but it's yours." "The couch is fine," I assured him. "If she brings company, I'll slip out the back and head to your place." "Wait, I've got an idea." I took the cash and stashed it in an empty fast food bag, which we hid under Jake's spare tire. "I might need backup," I said. "Got your weapon?" "Always," Jake replied, showing me his pistol. He tucked it into his waistband and followed me inside. I was almost done packing when I heard the sound of the front door unlocking. Jake quickly slipped into the closet as Emma rushed in, her expression a mix of desperation and regret. "Thank God you're here. I was so worried you'd be gone." "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling with false remorse. "Are you alone?" I asked coldly. "Or are the guys you were hooking up with earlier hanging around outside?" She winced. "It's just me," she replied weakly. "I'm sorry for what happened tonight. I got caught up in the moment. I was only trying to play along and excite the crowd, but I admit I went too far." I let out a dry, sarcastic laugh. "Excite them? Why bother? They'd already paid. You weren't going to squeeze anything extra out of them." Emma tried to justify herself, claiming she was working both sides to ensure we'd get the money no matter what happened. She even had the audacity to praise my win and insist she was glad to be with me instead of someone else. "Funny, that's not how I remember it," I replied sharply. "I heard you cheering for Goliath, telling him to finish me off so you could have him." She looked down, her face flushed with shame, but she continued insisting it was all for us and a one-time thing for the money. "I want to build a family with you," she pleaded. "This was just a mistake, nothing more." I stared at her in disbelief. "A mistake? Emma, even if Goliath's plan had worked and I didn't remember tonight, you'd still be a cheater. You were fine with drugging me, holding me against my will, and betraying everything we had. That's unforgivable. We're done." Tears streamed down her face. "No, you don't mean that," she sobbed. "We belong together." Before I could respond, a loud knock came at the door. "Why don't you see who it is?" Emma suggested sweetly, a hint of malice creeping into her tone. "I don't care who it is," I said flatly, though I suspected the worst. Emma grabbed my phone and left the room. Moments later, she opened the door and allowed Goliath and 5 of his thugs inside. She held up my phone triumphantly. "I have his phone, so he's not recording anything," she announced smugly, unaware I'd already activated my recording device. She turned back toward me. "Just hold him down, get the pills into him, and make it look like a mugging," she instructed. "What the hell is this? Get out of my house," I shouted, my voice firm with controlled rage. Emma's tone turned icy. "I'm sorry, honey, but I can't let you remember tonight. It'll be easier if you just drink this and go to sleep. If you don't, they'll force it down your throat, and it won't be gentle." "You didn't plan on this," I said, slowly pulling out my Glock 17. "Now sit down." The room froze as the gun glinted in the dim light. "I don't want to hurt anyone, but if I have to, I'll drop 3 of you before the rest figure out what to do," I added calmly. Goliath sneered, trying to mask his unease. "You wouldn't shoot. We'd take you down before you could do anything. Care to bet?" I asked, my voice like ice. "I'm a Marine, trained to shoot under pressure. If any of you so much as flinch, I'll put a bullet in 3 of you before you blink. Now sit." One of the goons hesitated, glancing at Goliath, but eventually relented. Slowly, they all backed onto the sofa and chairs, sliding into positions that made it harder for them to spring into action. I moved to the opposite wall and sat in a kitchen chair, my gun resting on my thigh, finger ready just outside the trigger guard. Emma tried to regain control of the situation. "Look, sweetheart," she cooed, "just give them $20,000 and take the ketamine. Tomorrow, we'll wake up richer, and none of this will matter." I raised an eyebrow. "How would you explain the missing $20,000? "Simple," she replied smugly. "You'd wake up believing you won $40,000 and handed me half to hold. Then, on the way home, you got mugged. Sure, they'd have to rough you up a bit, but we'd be fine." I laughed, a bitter, mirthless sound that made the thugs shift nervously. Emma began to rise, but Goliath egged her on. "Grab his weapon. He won't hurt you. He loves you." "He's half right," I said, locking eyes with Emma. "I used to love you. But if you take one more step, I'll drop 3 of these guys." She sank back into her seat, stunned. "You're a fool, Emma," I continued, my voice steady. "You really believed Goliath when he said I'd wake up with no memory, ready to believe whatever story you fed me. But here's the truth. You were never going to see a dime of that money. They planned to drug me, use you, record everything, and blackmail you into doing whatever they wanted." "That's not true," Emma cried, her voice cracking. "They were satisfied earlier. This was just about the contest." I laughed again, shaking my head. "Satisfied? Emma, they've got a video of you. That's enough to ruin your reputation and control you. Do you honestly think they'd go through all this trouble and not take full advantage of you? Wake up." Finally, she admitted Goliath had come up with the plan, hoping to humiliate me by making me watch and ensuring I couldn't call the police afterward. "But I only agreed to sleep with him, not the others," she insisted. "You're naive if you think they'd stop at that," I said coldly. "This wasn't a one-time deal, Emma. Even if you got the money, they'd bleed you dry and use you whenever they wanted." Her face crumpled as the full scope of her betrayal and its consequences dawned on her. "Oh, and one more thing," I added. "Your story about me getting mugged? That would fall apart in seconds. There are 42 witnesses, including referees, who saw me leave with all the money. No mugger would leave any of it behind. Your plan was doomed from the start. How'd a dumb jarhead like you outsmart us?" Goliath grumbled, his frustration obvious. Emma's face twisted in horror as the full scope of her mistake sank in. "Just because I don't have a degree doesn't mean I'm stupid," I replied calmly. "In the Marines, we were taught to think critically and evaluate situations under pressure. Tonight, I saw through you and your gang from the start." I pointed my Glock at Goliath. "Earlier, I knew your 5 friends weren't here for a payday. The split wouldn't have been worth the risk. So, this wasn't just about the money. I'm guessing you dangled Emma as the real reward, and that's why they helped you. Goliath's frustration boiled over, and in a desperate move, he yanked Emma in front of him, using her as a shield. Drop the weapon, or I'll snap her neck, he barked. I didn't flinch. Goliath, I'm not going to shoot you. But if you hurt her, I'll take out 3 of your men before the rest figure out what to do. Killing her won't save you. It'll just give me more reason to act. Now, let her go. One of the goons broke the tense silence. Jerry, let her go. This guy's not bluffing. He'll shoot us all. Goliath hesitated, but eventually released Emma. She stumbled away from him, her face a mix of fear and anger. The goon who had spoken earlier continued, addressing me directly. Look, you're not going to shoot anyone. You don't want to go to prison, and you're not calling the cops either. And why wouldn't I? I asked, my tone sharp. Because, he said, leaning forward slightly, there are 42 witnesses who saw your wife acting like a, well, you know. People already think you were in on it, pimping her out. You can deny it, but they'll just say you got jealous and turned on her. Sure, we might have roughed you up a bit, but we didn't plan anything worse. That's how it'll play out, and you won't be able to prove otherwise. Goliath growled, glaring at the goon. I need that money. I just bought a new truck. The smarter goon cut him off. Forget it. You lost the contest. Splitting what's left 5 ways isn't worth the trouble. Emma was the real prize, and the plan was to keep her for ourselves. Emma froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. We weren't going to turn her into, well, anything too quickly, the man continued casually. We had more events planned where she'd be the prize. Eventually, we might have let her have a kid, but only after she was thoroughly ours. We even planned to give her some money to keep her happy. But it's over now. We're leaving. Another man chimed in. We'll go, and you two can figure out your mess. But let's be real. This marriage is toast. No counseling can fix this. Still, I've got an idea. He smirked and added, I could give you some ketamine, just enough to erase tonight from your memory. Mix it with a few drinks, and you'll forget all of this. Emma won't work at the gym anymore, so she'll be safe from us. Maybe she's even learned her lesson about cheating. I couldn't help but laugh at their desperation to salvage the situation. You actually think I'd go along with that? I asked, raising an eyebrow. The man pressed on. It'd be like hitting a reset button. Emma could explain the money truthfully. You won it in the arm wrestling contest. Most of the guys here don't live locally, so you probably wouldn't run into them again. If you did, they might mention your hot wife, but they wouldn't bring up her behavior. I pretended to consider his pitch. And how would Emma explain my memory loss? I asked. He hesitated before answering. She'd have to stage something, a fall after drinking. If you got checked out at a hospital, she'd need a solid story. But you'd still be married, and love makes people trust their spouse's explanations, right? The group chuckled, clearly amused by their own scheme. I could tell they were already plotting ways to come back for the money. You'd have to take the ketamine tonight, he added, to ensure it erases enough. You might remember going to the gym, but not what happened there. Emma could fill in the blanks. Ignoring his pitch, I turned to Emma. What should I do about you? I asked aloud. The smartest choice is probably to divorce you and move on. No, please. Emma begged, tears streaming down her face. I swear, I'll never do anything like this again. But you still cheated, I said coldly. And if I take the ketamine, what's stopping you or them from blackmailing us later? You could tear us apart with lies and schemes. The men and Emma all shook their heads fervently, piling on assurances. The real problem, I continued, is how Emma would make my amnesia believable. She'd need to hurt me enough to sell the story. Could you do that, Emma? Oh, yes, she replied eagerly. I'd make it convincing. A few kicks to the head and ribs, maybe stage a mugging. We could say we went out to celebrate, and you got jumped. I'd run for help, and when I came back, they'd be gone. I stared at her in disbelief as she went on, her tone almost excited. I'd bring you home, and kick you a few more times to make it look real. I'd use your heavy boots to leave bruises, maybe even kick you in the balls a couple of times. Just enough to hurt, but not cause serious damage. The 6 men exchanged uneasy glances, clearly taken aback by her enthusiasm. And tomorrow, she added, gushing, I'd take care of you. Ice packs for your head and we'd save our marriage, have money for a baby, and I promise I'd never cheat again. That includes no kissing or letting anyone feel me up. I know that's what you consider cheating. Her sudden burst of self-awareness only deepened my disgust. She wasn't remorseful. She was just trying to say what she thought I wanted to hear. You really wanted to sleep with Goliath, didn't you? I asked Emma, my tone calm but cold. You'd probably be thinking about that while you kicked me for your little staged mugging. She hesitated, then sighed. Okay, I won't lie. Yes, I was excited about it. I felt his energy and wanted him. It would have been wild. Her blunt admission didn't surprise me, but her next words did. But now I'm mad at both of you. You for figuring it all out and ruining it, and him for planning it in the first place. Honestly, I'd like to kick both of you in the nuts. Maybe that should be a condition for letting them go. I get to kick Goliath too. Screw that, Goliath snapped, his bravado returning. I'm being honest here. None of this is going to matter, because you won't remember any of it. I glanced at Emma, whose flushed cheeks betrayed how much she'd remember and enjoy reliving these events, even if she missed out on actually being with Goliath. She seemed disturbingly eager to hurt me, just as she'd been disturbingly ready to betray me. Well, since we're all being so honest, I've got a few more questions before I decide what to do, I said, locking eyes with both of them. They nodded eagerly, eager to influence my decision. You claimed you never actually slept together, I began. You've been candid because you thought you could erase my memory. Emma even asked that I get a shot at winning, though she didn't think I would. But here's the real question. Did you plan to make me watch before drugging me? Both hesitated, but I already knew the answer. Yeah, Goliath admitted with a smirk. We thought it'd be thrilling to make you watch. Emma liked the idea of having that kind of power over you. The word power hit me like a punch to the gut, especially since Emma seemed to savor the thought of hurting me. It wasn't just me. Emma protested, digging herself deeper. Goliath said it'd be hot to see you cry, while watching him prove he was a better man. I pressed further. And whose idea was that? I suggested it, Goliath replied quickly, but Emma added details to make it even wilder. I followed up. Earlier, one of you mentioned Emma paid you this afternoon. Did she really? One of the goons answered without hesitation. Yeah, she gave all of us head. Said it was payment since we couldn't compete for her. My stomach turned, but I kept my face neutral. And all of you participated? One by one. They confirmed it, each providing details that left no doubt. Emma avoided my gaze, her shame evident. Let's just take care of this and move forward, Emma said, desperate to change the subject. We can reset our marriage. I promise I won't be tempted again. I couldn't help the sarcastic laugh that escaped. Oh, sure. After you enjoy stomping my nuts first, right? No, I wouldn't enjoy it, she replied, contradicting herself almost immediately. I'd just do enough to make it look real. I turned to the men. Let me guess. You planned to double back for the money and Emma after I was out. They all denied it, piling on assurances that they'd leave us alone. I didn't believe them. Raising a second phone I'd concealed, I smirked. See, you were never going far. The plan was simple. Give me just enough time to take the ketamine, then stage the mugging and come back. Emma would be dumb enough to tell you I'd taken the pill, and you'd return to finish the job. Emma's eyes widened in shock as the realization hit her. You've been recording everything? She asked. I nodded. They already have enough blackmail material on you, Emma. Do you really think they didn't record everything? Even if I pretended to take the ketamine, they'd come back, take the money, and drag you into their plan again. I then demanded to know where the footage was stored. The veterinarian, who had been mostly silent, admitted it was in his case by the door. Emma retrieved the camera, tossing me the SD card, but I reminded her the footage was also on the camera's hard drive. I don't care about the video, I told her, holding up the SD card. What you do with it is your problem. But don't expect me to help if you let them blackmail you. I pointed to my first phone, where the emergency operator's voice came through loud and clear. "What's the nature of your emergency?" Speaking clearly, I gave my name and address. "I have 6 men in my home whom my wife invited here to attack and rob me. I'm holding them under pressure and need officers dispatched. No ambulance is needed, yet, but it might be if any of them tries something." The 6 men glared at me. "What the hell, man?" one of them growled. "We were ready to leave. You even talked about fixing things with your wife. We gave you the camera. You could have deleted the footage." Emma looked equally stunned. "You're really doing this?" "Yeah," I said coldly. "My marriage is ruined because of you guys, so I'm returning the favor. Let's see how your wives react when they find out what you've been up to." 3 of the men shifted in their seats, but I raised the Glock again, my finger resting lightly on the trigger. "Don't try it. This trigger is sensitive, and it only takes a couple of pounds of pressure." Turning to Emma, I added, "And you? I told you I'd never trust you again. You've been far too eager to fake a mugging by stomping my nuts." "Jake," I called out. He stepped around the corner, phone in hand. "This is his phone," I explained, holding it up. "It's been recording everything. The pin recorder is back up." "That's hearsay," one of the men shouted. "Maybe," I replied with a shrug. "But even if it doesn't hold up in court, your wives won't like what they hear." I kept my weapon trained on them as I instructed Jake. "Go outside and inform the officers. I'll put the weapon down when they arrive. Secure everything for me, okay?" I handed him the SD card. "Got it," Jake replied. "I'll lock up and meet you at the station." Moments later, we heard the sound of approaching sirens. The emergency operator's voice came through my phone. "Officers are on location." I spoke evenly. "My friend is waiting at the door. The house is unlocked. I'm in the room with the pistol, holding it by the barrel." The first officer to step through the door was Jake's older brother, Tom, a police lieutenant. His body cam was recording, and he assessed the scene with a sharp, practiced eye. "What's going on here?" Tom asked, his tone firm. "Army, put the weapon down and step away." I complied immediately, lowering the gun and stepping back. "Well, Tom, it seems my wife cheated on me, gave these men oral sex earlier today, and planned to sleep with that one," I said, pointing directly at Goliath. "They threatened to drug me with ketamine and alcohol. When that plan failed, they showed up here for a second try. My wife let them in and handed over my phone so I couldn't record anything. It's in his shirt pocket," I added, nodding at Goliath. "That phone should show their intentions." Goliath scoffed. "This is ridiculous. We drove Emma here after her husband abandoned her in Kensington, following his arm wrestling win. She invited us over to celebrate. He's delusional. He even told contestants he was afraid for his life." I interrupted. "Why don't we all go down to the station, give our statements, and create a public record?" Tom cut me off. "I know how to handle this." Soon enough, everyone except Jake was in handcuffs and loaded into police cars. Jake stayed behind to secure the house and follow the plan to upload the recordings we had made. At the station, I gave my statement, explaining everything that had happened and laying out my suspicions about their plan. I suggested Tom check the case left at my house, along with the camera that Emma had tried to hide. Tom offered me coffee before leaving to take the others' statements. Hours later, he returned, looking skeptical. "Army, they're all sticking to the same story. You're crazy. They say you won the arm wrestling contest and then held them at gunpoint after Emma invited them over. One of them is a lawyer and wants to represent the group, but since he's also a suspect, that's not happening. They're all writing statements. Do you have any solid proof?" "I do," I said, leaning forward. "Jake has an audio recording of their confessions. He's making copies as we speak." The revelation changed everything. Tom's expression hardened, and when Emma heard about the recording, her bravado crumbled. She broke down and tried to shift the blame, claiming she had been seduced and blackmailed into cheating by the men. Later, an officer escorted Jake and me back to my house with my permission, avoiding the need for a warrant. They secured a case left at the door, which contained the camera Emma had hidden earlier, 2 bottles of liquor, ketamine, large tubes of lubricant, and flexible hoses. The footage downloaded from the camera left no doubt. Emma had willingly engaged with all 5 men in Goliath, expressing her excitement about being with Goliath after he won the contest. Tom pushed the boundaries of protocol, but he let me watch the footage at the station. By then, I had my own copy saved. With overwhelming evidence, Emma, Goliath, and the 5 men were held in jail until their arraignment on Monday. Meanwhile, Jake and I had plans. Early Sunday morning, I bought 2 cheap round-trip tickets to Las Vegas. We spent the day collecting discarded sports betting slips to cover our tracks, amassing nearly $40,000 worth to create a plausible story about losing most of my winnings. Jake and I indulged in Vegas, taking photos at strip clubs and posing with liquor bottles to bolster our alibi. We even made donations to a children's cancer hospital, wearing their branded sweatshirts to round out the narrative. On Monday, I ignored the flood of calls I received, suspecting many were from Emma's parents. Eventually, Tom texted, demanding I call him back. When I did, he was less than pleased. "You'd better get back here now," he said tersely. Back home, Tom issued us an official reprimand and took us straight to the district attorney's office. Jake and I claimed we misunderstood the instructions to stay close, thinking it applied to anywhere in the continental U.S. The DA wasn't amused but listened as I recounted the events. My story matched the audio recordings perfectly, reinforcing my determination to divorce Emma. The next day, I visited a lawyer, Mr. Evans, who estimated the divorce would cost around $2,000, but assured me it was the least of my concerns. The criminal charges against Emma and the men were far more significant. He advised me not to stress about the money, as I had little left anyway. By Tuesday, I had found a new apartment near my workplace. Although my parents offered to take me in, I preferred to stay independent and far from Emma. Rumors spread quickly in our small town, twisting the story into a tale of Emma having an affair with her boss, who came to confront me at home, prompting me to hold him at gunpoint. I kept the real story quiet, following my lawyer's advice, and held on to the recordings for leverage. On Wednesday, I started receiving calls from unknown numbers. The 4th one was from Sophia Reid, Goliath's wife. She texted me, asking to talk. Curious, I called her back. Sophia answered immediately and asked to meet in person. She sounded calm, but there was an edge to her voice that suggested anxiety. I drove to Kensington, bringing Jake's recording pin just in case. At the cafe, Sophia introduced herself. She was stunning, blonde, in her late 20s, but her polished exterior couldn't hide her unease. Unsure if she was another victim of Goliath's schemes or complicit in them, I treaded carefully. "All I know," she began, "is that my husband and his friends were arrested after something happened at your home. He claims it was all a misunderstanding, but I suspect he's not telling me the whole truth. Can you explain what really happened?" Realizing Sophia and the other wives deserved the truth, I suggested inviting them all over. I nodded toward the 3 women sitting across the cafe, who had been watching us intently since I arrived. Sophia seemed impressed by my observation and waved them over. After introductions, one of the women hesitantly asked, "Is it as bad as we've been imagining?" I sighed. "Maybe not for you, but for me, it's the end of my marriage. Goliath has been trying to seduce my wife for a while. He succeeded in everything except actual sex. He and his buddies plan to blackmail her into being available to them in the future." Their expressions shifted from disbelief to anger, with muttered curses all around. "No wonder the cops kept them in custody so long," Sophia said, shaking her head. "They were just released this morning. Apparently, they've been holed up with their lawyer ever since." She looked at me pointedly. "I assume you have proof. The guys keep claiming you don't." I pulled a flash drive from my pocket. "I've got hours of audio recordings. There's some irrelevant chatter in between, but the damning parts are easy to summarize. You're welcome to listen." One of the women shook her head in disbelief. "Your wife thought giving a guy head wasn't cheating? Seriously? And she let someone record her? How dumb can you be?" Another chimed in. "She really thought it was okay to cheat as long as you didn't remember because of the pills? Unreal." I nodded, noticing how the women weren't particularly shocked by their husband's behavior. "Why would I be?" one woman said flatly. "My husband's an egotistical idiot. My mom warned me he'd cheat someday. When we heard about an angry husband with a gun, we figured it was something like this. But this is worse than we thought." Sophia suggested we move to her office to listen to the recordings in private. She explained that she worked in investments and had an office nearby. Once there, we fast-forwarded through the parts about the arm wrestling competition. By the time the recording finished, the women were seething. One of them joked, "Teach me how to bite it off if he ever tries this crap again." The others laughed before making quick phone calls, none lasting more than a minute. Sophia explained that the 6 men had been tight-knit friends since high school, bonded by their shared love of bodybuilding. They were disciplined, charming, and loyal to each other, not their wives. "We get along because of them," Sophia admitted. "But honestly, our marriages are pretty empty. We're like satellites orbiting their bromance." After the others left, Sophia turned to me with curiosity. "Army, you're clearly smart. Why are you working such a low-income job?" I shrugged. "After the military, I wanted to stay close to my parents." "Do they need constant care?" she asked gently. "No, they told me I didn't need to stick around. But I got comfortable. It's home." Jake's in a similar boat. His brother's a senior cop, but he works an easy job too. Overseas, I read a lot, mostly mystery novels. It kept me sharp. Sophia laughed, and I found myself liking the sound of it more than I should have. Feeling a pang of guilt, I quickly excused myself. "You can call me any time," I told her, though I wasn't sure admitting that was wise. After several calls, texts, and voicemails, Emma finally tracked me down, pleading to talk. "All right, Emma," I said, crossing my arms. "What makes you think there's a misunderstanding? And why do you believe there's any chance of saving our marriage?" She looked startled. "Army, you've made it clear how you feel, but I didn't mean to hurt you. I just got caught up in the excitement with Goliath. So next time a hot guy comes along, you might get caught up again?" I asked sarcastically. "You thought it was fine to humiliate me, wipe my memory, and then pretend everything was okay?" I surprised myself with how calm I was. Not angry, just indignant. Emma stumbled over excuses before finally admitting, "I was wrong. But I want you, Army. I want to have your babies. It was just fun, and I didn't think you'd ever know." "But you would have known," I pointed out. "And you would have thought you got away with it." She suggested counseling, but I wasn't convinced. "Do you want to listen to a recording of what you said Saturday night?" I asked. "If you still think it was acceptable after hearing it, then maybe we can talk." I had no intention of salvaging our marriage, but wanted her to face the truth of her actions. The following Saturday, Sophia invited me to a dinner party with the other wives and girlfriends. Though I wanted to see Sophia, I wasn't entirely trusting, so I carried a small pistol, just in case. "I'm glad you came, Army," Sophia said warmly. "I hoped you'd trust me, but I understand being cautious. It's smart to be prepared." At the party, the women shared stories about their husbands' pathetic excuses. "They're not even that upset about the divorces," one woman said. "They're more worried about money. We're going after half of everything, and they're not getting a cent for legal defense." "My husband kept downplaying the charges," another added. "But when I quoted the recordings, he panicked. He didn't realize you had the whole night on tape." I nodded. Exposing them was my only goal. Sophia giggled. Jerry's reaction was priceless. How did a jarhead think to record everything? One of the women chimed in. "It saved me from marrying Eric. Next time, I need to look beyond the surface." They raised their glasses in agreement, toasting to fresh starts. Sophia, meanwhile, studied me closely, her expression thoughtful. Someone asked if I'd spoken to Emma. I admitted I had, explaining I was curious about her excuses. "Did you record it?" they asked, laughing. "I did," I admitted. They burst into laughter again, saying they'd done the same with their husbands. "Damn, your wife is delusional," one of the women remarked after hearing the recording. "She really doesn't think what she did was all that bad." "She's just mad that you found out," Sophia added thoughtfully. "She admits her mistakes but still clings to the idea of a future with you." "If that's love, I'd hate to see her version of hate," another woman quipped, shaking her head. Sophia gave me an intense look. "She loves you, Army, but love alone can't fix a marriage. So much more is needed." Her words lingered in the air, weighted with meaning. By midweek, my curiosity got the better of me, and I called Sophia to see how she was doing. To my surprise, She seemed genuinely happy to hear from me, and we arranged to meet that weekend. "I'm really glad you called, Army," she said when we met. "I wanted to call you, but I wasn't sure if I should." Her grin had a playful edge. "I hope you trust me this time. Maybe I should frisk you, waistband and all." I blinked, caught off guard. "We're not kids," she continued, her tone more serious. "I think we both feel a connection. Of course, we met under terrible circumstances, and you're probably wondering what kind of shallow person I am to have fallen for a guy like Jerry." I started to protest, but she waved me off. "Let me finish. I was in love with the idea of love. Jerry was smart, good-looking, and had the kind of physique that turned heads. Being the one to win him fed my ego. My mom warned me he'd break my heart, but I didn't listen. By the time I realized she was right, I was already married. And I'm not a quitter," she added with a sheepish smile. "Though this is one time I probably should have quit." She sighed. "I can see why your wife fell for his charm. Jerry could sell anything. He was great at coaching, always encouraging people. I never actually saw him seduce another woman, and he swears he never cheated on me. But my mom said it was only a matter of time before he did. At least we didn't have kids." Sophia paused, her cheeks reddening slightly. "I'm not sure what Jerry even saw in me." "To me, it's obvious," I said. "You're smart, compassionate, and incredibly attractive." She laughed softly. "And pushy. Maybe too driven. I was raised to always give my best and expect the same from others. My parents didn't have much money, but they loved their jobs and raised two well-rounded daughters. They encouraged us to try everything, dance, sports, music, so we could find our passion." Sophia's tone grew wistful. "When I told them about Jerry, my dad didn't say much. My mom did most of the talking. She even had a few things to say about you." I blinked. "About me? I've never even met her." "True, but you're part of the story," Sophia replied. "What did she say?" I asked, genuinely curious. "She analyzed you and Emma, like I did." "And?" I prompted. "She agrees with me. Emma loves you but doesn't respect you." I nodded slowly. "I've wondered if she ever really loved me." "Oh, she does," Sophia said firmly. "She wants your kids. If she didn't care about the marriage, she wouldn't have gone to such lengths to keep it intact. But part of her thinks you're not good enough for her. That's why she talked about humiliating you after sleeping with Jerry. It's a whole new level of disrespect, and it pisses me off." I chuckled dryly. It didn't exactly make me happy either. Sophia's eyes glistened with tears. "No, you don't understand. It infuriates me. I want to rip her hair out for what she planned to do to you. She might not respect you, but I do." Taking a deep breath, she added, "From the moment we met, I respected you. You had the guts to meet Jerry's wife, and you treated me with kindness. I liked that. I liked you." She raised her hand to silence me before I could interrupt. "You remind me of my dad. They say girls marry men like their fathers. I didn't with Jerry, but I see some of my dad in you. My mom warned me not to fall for you too quickly, but here I am, struggling. So I have to ask, do you like me?" I hesitated, then admitted, "I felt guilty about my feelings for you. Part of me wanted to be with you just to get back at Jerry, but I realized I don't care about him. I care about you, and that scared me. I'm married, even if it's to someone who doesn't deserve me. But yes, Sophia, I like you." Her smile lit up the room. "Good. Then we can take our time and see how we fit together." We laughed, and then she asked, "Can we at least kiss?" I nodded, and she slipped onto my lap, kissing me deeply. When we pulled apart, she grinned. "I'm staking my claim on you. And when the gold runs out, you'll move on?" I teased. She giggled. "Nope. I'll reinvest everything. I want a relationship built on love, not just lust. Respect is key." Over the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about Sophia. I knew I was rebounding from Emma, but this felt different. Sophia was right. Emma might have loved me, but she didn't respect me. That truth stung. Sophia, on the other hand, respected me openly and without hesitation. Meanwhile, Mr. Evans filed my divorce papers, officially separating my finances from Emma's. Without a job, she relied on our dwindling savings until she had to turn to her parents for help. This meant confessing our separation, though she conveniently omitted the worst parts. Her father called, urging me to consider counseling. According to him, Emma had merely flirted and gone too far with her boss. I sent him a flash drive with the audio recordings. 3 days later, he called to apologize, admitting he understood but still wanted to help Emma avoid jail. By the end of the second week, everyone involved knew I had the full recordings. The veterinarians were sanctioned, losing their ability to handle anesthetics, which crippled their careers. At the gym, Jerry's actions caused such an uproar among female members that Stokes Fitness fired him to prevent a mass walkout. The criminal trial wrapped up in 6 months, relatively quick for a case like this. The men's lawyers tried to suppress the recordings, but they became key evidence. The men even attempted to press charges against me for holding them at gunpoint, but those were dismissed outright. Emma, feeling betrayed, turned on them and testified for the prosecution, admitting her role in the scheme. Her confession earned her a 2-year sentence, with 18 months suspended. While I initially just wanted to ruin their relationships, I couldn't deny the satisfaction of seeing justice served. During this time, I grew closer to Sophia. She pushed me to enroll in college, and Jake joined me. We both excelled, completing our first semester with solid grades. Sophia and I waited until our divorces were final before deepening our relationship. It was worth the wait. On our honeymoon, she revealed she had stopped using birth control months earlier, wanting to start a family with me. She even had a temporary tattoo on her back that read "exclusive property of Ryan Carter," which left me laughing. One day, we ran into Emma at her old job. She tried to make small talk, but I cut her off. "This is my wife, Sophia," I said, "and we're expecting a child." Emma's face fell as another server took over her table. Looking back, I realized the difficult journey had led me to where I was meant to be, by Sophia's side, holding our son, and finally feeling at home.